Welcome into the Birds of the Roundtable on this Victory Monday, not a Tuesday, Victory Monday edition of the podcast. Guys, after the way last Tuesday's episode was, the vibes on the show, the vibes in the chat, we simply could not wait till Tuesday to talk about the Eagles getting back on track. Actually, it's because I had a conflict and I made all these guys adjust their schedules to suit my convenience because I'm the captain here or something. I don't know. That's what the people are saying. But anyways, we are joined by the whole crew here. First of all, we've got Dives. Give him a follow on Twitter at Mr. Crockpot. Dives, how you doing tonight?
Doing well, man. Finally recovered. That was the most emotional Eagles game I have been a part of in quite some time. And let's talk about it.
All right, we are going to dive into it. Also joined by Ryan Reese. Give him a follow on Twitter at Philly Sports PSA. Ryan sporting the Cooper DeJean jersey tonight. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Doing obviously a lot better than last week. Still, still some things to get right, but I'm never going to harp on a win, even if it's ugly.
All right. Also joined by David. Give him a follow on Twitter at PHL Eagle News. David, how are you doing this evening?
Doing good, man. The only good thing about those 1 o'clock games is we get to go to bed at normal hours instead of staying up till 1 or 2 in the morning. I see Ryan looks refreshed. Dogs is smiling. Everybody likes the 1 o'clock games.
I think it's more about the result than the time, to be honest.
I
think Ryan would have been smiling last week, even though it was a late game if the Eagles won. I think he might still be seeing the Vietnam flashbacks if they had lost this one. So, I think it might be more results driven than that. But thank you guys for joining us. We know it's an adjusted time. Next week, just if you want to mark your calendar, will also be the adjusted time on Monday. I had a couple of back-to-back week conflicts, but we'll get back to Tuesday nights quickly. Also, if you are watching us live, be sure you go check out the Eagles Pinpole Network podcast feed. This show, along with 4 other long-form shows and our post-game show, hit that feed every week, along with daily updates from Phil on the Eagles checkdown. So be sure you go subscribe to that. Give us ratings and reviews. That really helps us out. Guys, let's dive into it here. The Eagles beat the Saints 15-12. Let's start on the offensive side of the ball with your takeaway from the offense. David, I'll throw it to you first. What was your big takeaway from the Eagles offense?
That they found a way to win. I mean, that it was a big character win. They were in a loud stadium. They were highly discouraged most of the day because of the fact that they had outplayed the Saints and were losing. They sustained major injuries. Players including Devonta Smith, Lane Johnson, even the surprising third wide receiver, Britton Covey. But the offensive and defensive coaches, they stayed level and consistent. Jaylen Herz is always cool, calm, and collected. And they came from behind to pull off an improbable win. It was just a gutsy win, a character-building win, a win that I hope the coaches build from. Winning the game also just changed everything. Instead of being down 1-2, going to a place like Tampa where they have been struggling a lot lately, they're in a position to go 3-1. They've really took a lot of blows early on in the season. They've been to Brazil, followed then by a Monday night game and then 2 more road games. And at the end of the day, when we start talking about Tampa, they'll have a chance to be 3-1. And none of that would have happened if they wouldn't have come back like they did against the Saints, because everything appeared to be looking like it was going to end in a bad note like Atlanta did.
Yeah, you definitely got some of those bad vibes as the Eagles, have the lead and then they give up the touchdown. And it's like, man, how do you expect this Eagles offense to go on a game-winning drive down Mekhi Becton, Lane Johnson, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and they were able to pull that one out. So definitely good to exercise those demons and get back on the winning side here. Ryan, I'll throw it to you next. What was your offensive takeaway in this one?
I feel like David just named everything there, but I think it was the resiliency and next man up mentality. You have one of the best right tackles in the game go out. You have Becton, who's been playing really good, go out. You're already down A.J. Brown. You Devontae Smith got rocked by a dirty hit. All right, I'm just reading the comments there. So yeah, it was nice to see that this offense that we all thought was going to be a juggernaut throughout this season has some resiliency, has that next man up attitude, and really nothing changed. It was just they finally were able to kind of break down that Saints defense, and they kept to it, and it wasn't until that fourth quarter when everything kind of broke open for them, and they finally were utilizing Saquon and Dallas Goedert. I also, my big takeaway is I really got to start talking crap on Dallas Goedert more often. I have been harping on Goddard for the last couple of weeks, and in fact, I was out live at the Pittman Craft Fair on Saturday, and I called him a bum. He said he sucked. I said he's not a top 10 tight end. I didn't even think he was top 15, and he finally has the game of his life. So you're welcome, I guess, is really my takeaway. I'll take credit for that, but. I'll write down where I buy my jerseys there, Benny, in the chat. I'll respond with my guy. And I wasn't that drunk during the show last week either.
Yeah, Ryan is a professional. He doesn't show up to work drunk. He gets drunk after maybe.
Yeah.
But that's none of our business. It's all good here. Dives, what was your big picture your big takeaway from the offense in this one?
Jeff Stoutland, you baby. That's got to be. I mean, you look at Lane Johnson going down. You look at Mekhi Becton going down. Mekhi Becton has quietly been sensational so far this season. And the Eagles' offense didn't skip a beat. Fred Johnson, 33 pass blocking snaps, 0 sacks allowed. Tyler Steen, 36 pass blocking snaps, 0 sacks allowed, man. Stoutland U was in full effect. And that's incredible. And I remember us on this show, having some concerns about, swing tackle depth and interior depth. And Jeff Stoutland continues to be one of the best coaches, period, in the NFL, period.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Mekhi Becton's been really good as a run blocker. Tyler Steen was a better pass blocker in this game than Becton has been throughout this season. I was really impressed with Tyler Steen. Like, Fred Johnson gave up some pressures, and Fred Johnson played more like you hope a backup lineman does when they're thrust in. He didn't blow the game, but there were moments that you're like, yeah, that guy's the backup. Tyler Steen looked like he's been the starter the whole time. I could not have been more impressed with Tyler Steen in this game. I'm curious to see what the Eagles will do. I don't know what the injury is for Becton, but if Becton is back and Lane Johnson is out, I'm curious if they will play Becton and Fred Johnson, or if they'll play Tyler Steen and try to kick Mekhi Becton out to right tackle. So be interesting to see how they handle that. But yeah, the offense just able to gut this one out, get the win. I tweeted this earlier, but Saquon Barkley rushed for 147 yards and 2 touchdowns in this game on 17 carries. Per Next Gen Stats, he had 87 rushing yards over expectation, and he reached 21.66 miles per hour on the 65-yard touchdown run, which was basically like, okay, I'm tired of us screwing this up and ending drives with no points. I'm just going to do this myself. And that was an incredible run. That was the second fastest speed reached by a ball carrier this season. It would have been 9th overall last season. So explosive Saquon, man. If the Eagles can keep him explosive, keep his legs fresh, keep him from getting hurt as the season winds on, he's going to be such a benefit to this team when we get to January football. So let's flip it over to the defensive side of the ball. And Ryan, I'll give this one to you first. What's your big defensive takeaway in this one?
Dibs, I'm really sorry, buddy, but Jalen Carter is nasty. He had absolutely, I think, his best game as a professional. He was dominant out there. He was just wreaking havoc. I'm pretty sure I heard that PFF had him rated as the highest DT so far this season grade so far this season. But yeah, he was just dominant, and for a defensive line that has been, much made fun of essentially for lack of production, and himself, he shined, honestly. Jordan Davis getting that sack early, and then Carter just basically from that point on just kind of dominated, and they couldn't do anything. Alvin Kamara couldn't run anywhere, in between the tackles, in between, that line. So that was a big part for Jalen Carter, and he was able to make things a little messy for that New Orleans offense. So Jalen Carter, welcome back, buddy.
Yeah, great game from Jalen Carter. I was saying off the air before we started, I wish he'd gotten a sack, because you look at his box score and it's like, that's a good game. He wrecked the game, and I wish he would have ended up with a sack to show for it. But Dibes, what was your big takeaway in this one? Besides the fact that you've got to stop picking Jalen Carter for player of the week, because the one time you don't, this is what happens.
Yeah, we talked about that in the post game. It's hilarious. But anyway, you could talk about the defensive line. I want to talk about Brandon Graham last year, and he comes in, replaces Bryce Huff, and the entire defensive line looks so improved. Brandon Graham had 14 pass rushing snaps. He had 2 pressures, a hit, a hurry, a tackle, an assist, and 1 run stop. Just like Jalen Carter, those numbers don't truly indicate how impactful they were on that football field. Bryce Huff, he's got to go. They got to figure something out because he doesn't have much time left as an impact guy, at least in the near future. I don't see it. In fact, I would start slowly ramping up Jalen Hunt. I think that's where we're at. So for me, it's got to be Brandon Graham. And on his retirement year, steps up and arguably was their most impactful edge rusher on Sunday.
Yeah, man, I don't even think it's arguable. He was definitely there. Josh Sweat, I would say Josh Sweat had a nice game, but yeah, Brandon Graham almost doubling up Bryce Huff in terms of snap count is not something I expected. He's still got it, man. I hope he can continue to play more volume of snaps, because I think the Eagles are going to need him. And so I'd love to see Brandon Graham go out with, I'm glad he didn't go out last year playing 10 snaps a game and with the collapse. I'd love to see him playing 30 productive snaps a game in his kind of farewell tour. But we have a comment here coming in from YouTube. A healthy scratch 2 weeks in a row. Why did Howie even sign Devin White? David, do you have any insight into the Devin White situation? I know you hear some things sometimes that the rest of us don't. Do you have any insight there?
Nothing really, but I think I can answer this question. Is they went into the season last year with no contingency plan. If something happened to Nakobe Dean, it would have been malpractice to go into the season doing that again. So I think they went into the season with Devin and Nakobe battling it out. I think a lot of people thought Devin would beat him out, but Nakobe Dean won. He won the camp battle, and they have had offers to trade Devin White, and they've so far they're reluctant to pull the trigger on that. And I think the reason is depth, because when Nakobe Dean went out last year, they struggled all year trying to find people. I can't even remember everybody who they signed. Shaq Leonard later in the season, they traded for somebody else. It was just a nasty carousel of linebackers. So I think that is your reason, is they wanted depth, they wanted experience, they wanted somebody who's won before, and he's basically just a highly paid backup.
All right. Yeah, I think they expected him to start, and he got beat out. Why he's been a healthy scratch is, I guess, you're just not going to keep a guy active that doesn't play special teams and isn't a starter. So I don't really know.
No special teams. Yeah, that's the answer.
Yeah. So, all right, David, what was your big defensive takeaway in this one?
To piggyback on Dives a little bit, I would say press conferences are when coaches tell you what they want you to hear, and snap counts will tell you everything that they are thinking. And Huff started the game. then he quickly became a situational pass rusher for the rest of the day. Because like Dive said, BG just came in and took over. He's playing as good as football as he ever had. He could likely play another season. I know they've already approached him to see if he would be interested in such. He is amazing.
Wow.
I mean, he's just playing at a very high level. But to give something else, I would give some kudos to Ed Reed Blankenship. He pulls off another game-ending diving interception there. He has a skill on controlling the ball when he secures those interceptions, man. How he gets under there and secures them week in and week out. And it's been really impressive. And I heard earlier, I think it was Reuben Frank was on some station earlier, and he said that he stated that Blankenship has 5 of the Eagles' last 11 interceptions over the past 2 seasons, which very impressive for Blankenship. Very pathetic that there's only 11 interceptions over the past 2 years, but that's a really impressive stat. I mean, he's really turned into a ball hawk, and he's a fun guy to watch.
If they can get Reed Blankenship to work with Quinyon Mitchell on how to catch a football, that number might skyrocket. I think there's so much credit to go around for the defense. The Saints came into the game averaging 45.5 points per game, and the Eagles held them to 12. They came in averaging 405 yards per game, and the Eagles held them to 219. And the Eagles tackled better. Per Next Gen Stats, they converted 94.7% of their tackle opportunities. Weeks 1 through 2, it was at 81%.
Wow.
So they tackled better. The corners, Darius Slay played well. Quinyon Mitchell played well. They both got tested on out and ups by Rashid Shaheed, and neither one of them got beat on it. It was an all around incredible performance from the defense. And, kudos to Vic Fangio for pushing the right buttons. Clint Kubiak helped him out a lot, because the way you run all over the Eagles is get them into nickel front or nickel personnel and their wide 9 fronts. And the Saints remained determined to run 12 and 21 personnel, even though they were missing Taysom Hill, and made it easy on the Eagles to get into 5 and 6 man fronts. But they did it. That's the plan coming in, and they execute it, and it worked out perfectly. So major shout out to the entire defense. We've got another comment asking about Sidney Brown. Is he on the 53-man active roster? He's currently on IR, which means he's not on the active 53-man. He can return. He could be activated after the week 4 game. So starting on IR, he has to miss 4 games. So that'll happen. They could activate him and practice him during the bye week. I don't know where he's at, but I would assume he's pretty close. So I would imagine he will be activated sooner rather than later.
I want to just add one question to the panel. Starting off with David. David, did you have any idea Zack Baun was going to be this good?
This good? No.
This good.
No, I thought he would succeed in the system because Fangio wanted him. He handpicked him. It was, of all the players that are on that defense, he handpicked him. And I think I said he could get maybe 5 sacks on the year. I don't know, 100 and some tackles. But this guy's looking like a friggin' all-pro through 3 weeks, man.
He really is.
And I predicted Dean to lead the team in tackles. I don't know about that anymore. I think that's going to be Zack Baun, man. I mean, I thought he would succeed in that kind of role, but nothing like this, man. No, he's exceeded all expectations.
Same, man. I never foresaw Zack Baun just being what he is showing the Philadelphia Eagles. And I think he's got 27 tackles, which is tops in the league. He's going to break some records, man. And I don't think any of us saw that coming.
No, nothing to this extent. No, in fact, throughout the earlier parts of camp, some people thought we were going to use him as an edge. Like he wasn't even going to be a linebacker initially. So, yeah, I don't see how anybody could honestly say they saw this coming.
That's what he thought when he got signed.
Yeah,
he thought he was going to be an edge rusher, and then Vic Fangio the next day is like, "Oh no, he's a linebacker for us."
Yep.
Yeah, but he sets the edge really well, man.
Oh, he definitely does.
He's way better than 80% of the rest of the defensive line.
Well, and that versatility is so key too for if you want to get in those 5-man fronts. The weakness of that is you're dropping out an edge rusher into coverage. on passing downs. But when the edge rusher that you're dropping out is actually your starting linebacker, that's really nice. You kind of get the benefit of the 5-man front without necessarily having, nearly the downside of it's Josh Sweat in coverage or something. So that's massive for them.
This comment is really interesting too. Ryan says, why when the Eagles run the ball a lot, one drive shoving it down opposing team throats, marching downfield, then they always turn from the run. That is a very good comment. There's definitely some inconsistency with Kellen Moore. We saw it literally Sunday when Saquon barely touched the ball in the first half, and then in the third quarter was getting a ton of touches, has that 65-yard touchdown, and then touched the ball once the remainder of the game. Now, they did move the ball, to be fair, but that is definitely something I've noticed as well is I guess the Eagles still tend to get too cute in certain situations, and instead of going strength versus strength, make some bonehead decisions, in my opinion. I don't know. What do you guys feel about that?
I think some of that is a Nick Sirianni tenet, if I'm being completely honest. He believes in throwing first, running late. He tries to get a lead. Some of it is they give the ball to Saquon 4 times in a row. He hits 9 yards, 9 yards, 9 yards. Then they bring in Gainwell. He gets 3 yards, 4 yards, and they're like, the hell with this, and they go right back to the pass. But a lot of it, I think, is the philosophy that is not completely gone from the Eagles' offensive scheme, which is Sirianni likes to throw early, run late.
Yeah, it was interesting. I think Barkley only got like 1 or 2 carries in the first quarter, and then I think it was just the one. But Dive said it. He didn't touch the ball after his big couple of runs there and his touchdowns. So it's strange the consistency of it all, but. I don't know. I always feel like this is always the way Eagles football has been. Not just Sirianni. I feel like they never run the ball when we want them to, and when it works, they're like, "Nah, I think we could do it another way." Again, I'm perfectly fine with just running the ball 50 times. If it's working, it's working. Good, great. Also, Ryan's right. Don't run with the backup running backs. Stop with the Gainwell.
Can we also say one thing that has been said year after year? People who used to defend Howie Roseman for not signing elite running backs, the argument was always, with this offensive line, anybody can run behind it. Yeah, do you see the difference now? Do you see what a Saquon Barkley does behind this line compared to a Kenny Gainwell, compared to a DeAndre Swift? I think we can close the chapter on that.
That's why I brought it up, because the Eagles are bottom tier in terms of red zone touchdown percentage. And I remember screaming at the TV, like, run the damn ball. Excuse my language. Like, it's the 3rd and 2 situations on like the 10 and just punch it in. Give it to Saquon. Stop being cute. Utilize the strength of your roster and run it down someone's throat. And I know Shane is opposed to that sometimes. It doesn't really matter. But at the end of the day, like I feel like analytics gets in the way of things sometimes.
I've got a fun trivia question for you guys. So last year, CJ Stroud kind of opened the season on an incredible run as a rookie. He threw 191 passes before he threw his first interception in the league. Who intercepted CJ Stroud's first pass, or who got his first interception?
I have no idea.
Was it Chauncey?
It was Zack Baun. And I know this because I Twitter searched Baun in my tweets to see what I said, what the first things I were saying about him was. And I tweeted about it because Zack Baun intercepted it and then fumbled the return, and it was recovered by the Texans. So CJ Stroud's first career interception actually resulted in positive EPA for the Texans. And I remember thinking that was hilarious and tweeting it. So there you go. The first thing I ever said about Zack Baun on Twitter was last year when he intercepted CJ Stroud and then fumbled the return.
That's
all right. Anyways, let's roll on into our player of the games. Dives, I don't think I've given you one first tonight, so I'll give it to you first. Who's the player of the game?
it's without it's without question Jalen Carter. He was a wrecking ball. He was a force. He was batting passes. He was getting into the backfield. He was getting tackles for loss. He was everything we wanted to see in the first couple of weeks of the season. We talked about it on these shows. If he's not that guy, there's going to be serious problems this season. And the 5-man fronts, really opened it up for him, I thought. He wasn't, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like he wasn't double teamed as much. And I feel like it just got him into space a lot easier. So for me, it's got to be Jalen Carter and his impact. I'm pretty sure he was right in Derek Carr's face on that Reed Blankenship interception. So for me, Jalen Carter, 1,000%.
All right. You had to give Dibes a chance to rectify his mistake there in not predicting him as the player of the game. Ryan, who was your player of the game?
It's Dallas Goedert. He finally woke up. He had the best game of his career statistically, and he was pivotal in that last drive, getting down to score that touchdown. So, it was super important. I think it was the most important play of the game, and the fact that he was just able to be relied upon the entire game. So I'll eat crow. I talked mad crap on Dallas, and he listened, and he showed up. So I'll give him the credit.
All right. So we've got a Jalen Carter. We've got a Dallas Goedert. David, which way are you going for player of the game?
Jalen Carter. I mean, I don't see
no repeats. You got to pick somebody else.
It's got to be Jalen Carter. No, if I have to go somebody else, I'd have to go Zack Baun. I mean, he had 13 tackles. Once again, he led the team in tackles. He was all over the place. I mean, he's going to get exposed sometimes in coverage, especially when he matches up against Chris Olive or Olave or however you say his last name.
Love it.
But
by the way, that was great coverage on Kamara. That was just an unbelievable catch by Kamara.
It was.
That's. I mean, he was with him. That's the one where just like a safety knows to get his head around and find the ball, and it probably is an interception. And a guy that's played linebacker for 5 years probably does the same. But a guy that was an edge rusher last year just doesn't have that knack for like turn and find the ball. But yeah, he was with him step for step.
Yeah, he was really good. And if I'd shout one more other player out, it would just be Milton Williams, who I think is earning more money every single week. He had a beautiful tackle for loss versus Kamara early in the game, which I think set the tone for how the Eagles played to run the rest of the day. I thought that was a really big, TFL to start the game off with, and it just set the tone.
Yeah. Yeah, comment coming in here from Ryan on Facebook about the miss where Herz didn't see Goddard wide open down the field and Greg Olsen was in complete shock. Yeah, Dallas Goedert could have had a 200-yard game on that one for sure. I will go player of the game. It stinks to leave Saquon Barkley out because, man, he had a great game. But you guys know the rules. If you get an interception, you get player of the game for me. And Reed Blankenship, with under a minute to play, protecting a 3-point lead, makes that diving interception. It let me breathe and stop reliving the flashbacks from the Falcons game and have a fun Sunday afternoon instead of a miserable one. So I'll give Ed Reed Blankenship my player of the game. Sorry, Saquon, you definitely deserved one too. So, all right, let's transition over to next week's game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Also a 1:00 game. Let's get into our matchups to watch. Dibes, lead us off.
Of course. I typically stay in the trenches. I've been basically talking about the same thing the last few weeks. It's the Eagles pass rush versus Baker Mayfield and that offensive line. You look at Mayfield. Overall, he's been doing pretty well this season. But last week, he was bad. Same goes for the Bucs offensive line that truly failed to protect him. Baker Mayfield was sacked 7 times for 31 yards in week 3. Everyone, everyone on that offensive line was really bad. They have another guy, a backup swing tackle named, correct me I'm gonna destroy this. Shane, Justin Skule. Did I get that right? I don't know if you know him.
I'm actually not sure.
He's a backup swing tackle that, because of injuries, has had to play right tackle for them, and he's given up 3 sacks and 6 pressures through 2 games this year. And meanwhile, the Eagles, it was all about the return of the defensive line against the Saints. Derek Carr was pressured on 11 of his 27 dropbacks. That's the highest pressure rate he's faced in a game this year. And, if the Eagles continue to run this 5-man fronts, if Jalen Carter continues to eat, Brandon Graham against this Justin Skule guy at right tackle, the Eagles should have a pretty favorable matchup there with their pass rush against Baker Mayfield.
All right. So pass rush getting home against Baker Mayfield, coming off of a rough game, by the way. So a loss to the Denver Broncos. Ryan, what's your top matchup to watch?
Yeah, it's our backfield versus the Bucs wide receivers. Everybody obviously knows about Godwin and Mike Evans. They're 2 really good wide receivers. Godwin leads the team right now in 21 receptions, 253 yards, and 3 touchdowns so far. Evans, not his typical numbers, but only 10 for 120 and 2 touchdowns. But they also have rookie Jalen McMillan, who's kind of figuring himself out still. He only has 3 catches for 59 yards, but he does have a touchdown so far. And he has looked good when he's been out there. So, Eagles are certainly going to have their hands full. That is for sure. You also have Cade Otton, kind of a rising tight end. And also, Rashad White certainly can catch the ball out of the backfield. So, but the defensive backfields really do need to focus on Godwin and Evans and let the rookie beat you, essentially. So it's going to be tough considering, we don't know the status of every single person that we have out there about Slay. Are we gonna get, our first shot at I'm already forgetting his name. He hasn't even been in there yet. Guy from the Colts.
Isaiah Rodgers.
Thank you, Rodgers. Yeah, we're going to see him finally. Who knows? But we need to figure it out quickly because the Bucs can certainly beat you through the air. So I'm going to be paying attention to who's out there first and foremost, and how they kind of scheme against to slow them down because they're a formidable duo for sure.
All right, David, what is your top matchup to watch in this one?
I went with Jalen Herz versus Todd Bowles. Hertz has struggled mightily versus Tampa Bay and Todd Bowles' defensive scheme, including the first playoff game that Hertz went against Tampa back in January 2022, when the players for the Bucs were saying Hertz couldn't read their defense. All that went viral. And last year, he had a lot better outing last September, but the Eagles employed a run-heavy scheme. And they also took a very early lead and they never looked back, which helped Jaylen because he wasn't put in position, in obvious passing situations. So he is playing in a much better quarterback-friendly scheme. He has been executing it very well. This is not the same offense that Bowles has schemed against like he has the last 3 matchups. So this chess matchup is the one I'm most interested to watch unfold. I think the offense is better prepared to handle the multi-look blitz packages. And the challenge for Jaylen will be to find a way to get the passing game going without his 2 biggest weapons and possibly the entire right side of the offensive line not being there. So that's what I think. If they're going to come out of there with the W in Tampa, that's who's going to have the biggest day.
All right. I'm going to kind of play off the fact that, I imagine AJ Brown is out through the bye week. And then maybe they'll try to rush him back because Devonta Smith's injury, so they have something. I don't think that would be wise. Devonta Smith is in concussion protocol. I think it's probably unlikely he plays. Lane Johnson's in concussion protocol, so it's pretty unlikely he plays. We don't know what's going on with Mekhi Becton, but like David said, you could potentially be down your top 2 receivers and your starting right guard and right tackle. I can see this being a big run the ball game. And you're going against a Bucs defensive front that is 8th in run stop win rate so far this year. Now, Tampa's dealing with injuries of their own. Vita Vea missed last week's game. Not sure what his status will be this week. There's no injury reports yet. Kalijah Cansey, their first-round pick last year, hasn't played yet this year. Not that he's like a great run defender, but still, it's another defensive lineman down. While we're at it, Antoine Winfield Jr., their safety, has missed 2 straight games. So they're reeling with injuries as well. And so maybe that softens up the defensive front a little bit, and maybe you're able to get the run game going. So I'm going to be watching for that, especially if you're down receivers. How are you going to choose to attack this defense? Because I could see a lot of running, especially given, Todd Bowles' tendencies to blitz. And we saw Hertz not be on the same page with Kenny Gainwell when he tried to throw hot one time. And Britton Covey has been a hot answer, and he's out. And so I could see you just trying to stay ahead of positive game script, stay ahead of the chains here. And so I could see this being a big rushing day as well. So I think that's a big one to watch. So, all right. So those are our top matchups to watch. Let's quickly get into our picks of the week. We're going to make a player of the game prediction. Again, not repeating players, but we're also not scoring these because of that. Then we'll give score predictions, over, under, several others. So let's start off with player of the game. Ryan, who's your player of the game pick?
This one's tough because there's a lot of really good players that we don't know if they're going to be out there. So I'm going to have to go with just looking at this Tampa defense. I would assume that we would run the ball a lot, considering we might not have any of our main targets through the air. So let me go with Saquon.
All right, Saquon Barkley is the pick for Ryan. Dibes, who do you got?
Yeah, I'm gonna strike while the iron's hot. Give me Dallas Goedert. Continuing, I think one of the fun storylines recently is Jalen Herz utilizing the middle of the field more these past couple of weeks. So who knows if Devonta's probably out? It could be another big Dallas Goedert game. So give me Dallas Goedert.
All right. So we've got a Saquon, we've got a Goddard. David, who do you have?
Jalen Hurts. I can't talk about the matchup like that and then not pick him to be player of the game. If they're going to win, he's going to have one of the better games that he's had this year, and he's also going to have to probably use his legs some. So I'm putting it on Jalen Hurts.
I'm not picking Jalen Carter because I'm hoping he has another game.
Yeah, it's guaranteed happening.
All right, Ryan, you were holding up your finger. What
I was literally about to say the same thing. I was like, well, you can guarantee Carter going off against Tampa.
All right. Well, if we're in the business of guaranteeing things, if we're going to guarantee Jalen Carter going off, I want to ride those coattails to a good pick. So give me Jalen Carter.
Love it.
Having another strong game against a weakened Bucs offensive line, against an offensive line that allowed 7 sacks last week. Jalen Carter tees off in this one.
I think Carter's best game last year was against Tampa. I was at that game, and he probably had 50 family members sitting near me. Like, I think he lives about 45 minutes from there or something, cool. where he went to college there, and he was amazing in that game. So I almost took that as well because I think that is primed for him to have another big outing. I would expect him to have a lot of friends and family there again.
All right. Let's go to our winning team and score prediction. David, what do you got?
I got the Eagles 26-20, which puts me on the over by half a point. But once I saw your over, I didn't want to change mine because I do think it's kind of going to be low scoring, but I'll stick with my 26-20.
Was that an Eagles win?
Yes, sir.
Got it.
All right. Ryan, which way are you leaning here?
You're muted, man.
Sorry. Is there any question who I'm taking? I am going to go. I'm going to go with 24-18. Thank you.
All right, Dibes, what do you got?
Ryan would be under.
I'm gonna go.
Say I would be under.
I'm gonna go with my gut. I'm gonna say 23-20. The Bucks win. And I'm going under.
All
So
right.
Ryan at under too.
I'm under too.
Yeah, Ryan is under.
Yeah, I got you.
All right. Give me. I want to pick the Eagles to win by more than a possession. I really do, but they haven't done it in a calendar year. So the first score that came to mind for me was 21-10, and I just can't do it until they prove it. So I'm going to take the Eagles to win this one. I will say the score is 21-17, which puts me under as well. And hopefully it doesn't come back to bite me because I've incorrectly predicted all three of the games so far. So hopefully this one breaks the streak.
I think this like looks like a dud. That's I didn't really talk about why I chose the Bucks. I just feel like this game is a dud. A lot of guys hurt, and it's going to be a more sloppy offense, and that's why I'm going with the Bucks. And Baker Mayfield can pull one out of his butt. We all know that. He can look really good out of nowhere, so I'm going Bucks.
All right, let's go over under Jalen Hurts turnovers. Line is set at 1.5. Give me the under. This is the week. Jalen Hurts is not going to be turning the football over, so under 1.5. Dibes, what do you got?
I'm going to go over.
Oh,
All
right, Ryan?
Under. Out of here.
David?
Under.
That's right.
All right. Over under Saquon rushing yards. Line set at 119.5. He's only over that once this year. It was last week. Given the receivers that are potentially down, I'll take the over on this one. Ryan, what about you?
Come on, I picked the man to be the player of the game. You know where I'm going. I'll jump over the moon.
All right. Dibes.
Yeah, definitely going over on that.
All right. David, are you making it a clean sweep?
Nope, I'm taking the under. I think he has more total yards than that, but going under with the rushing.
Crazy.
All right. Jalen Hurts versus Baker Mayfield. Who has more passing yards? David.
Hurts.
All right. Ryan, who do you have?
Give me Baker.
All right. Ryan for Baker. Dibes, who do you got?
Also going Baker. I think he's going to move the ball through the air a lot more. They could be potentially down early on and have to throw the ball more. Not a big believer in Bucky Irving and that just yet. So give me Baker. In a game, I think the Eagles run the ball quite a bit.
All right. I'm taking Hertz. Mayfield's been under 190 yards each of the last 2 weeks. So I will take Hertz. I'm not convinced. I don't think I hit both the Hertz over Mayfield and the Saquon over 119.5, but I think I hit one of the two for sure. So over under Bucks total sacks 1.25. Dibes, what do you got? I keep asking you things while you're taking a drink because I'm not even looking at you when I decide to pick.
Continue this trend. I like it.
I got to go under. I got it.
All right, Ryan.
I'm going over.
All right. I'm going under. They don't have a sack in the last 2 weeks. I think the Eagles can hold up even if they're down some linemen. David, what do you bet you?
Under.
All right, over under receptions for Chris Godwin at 6.5. That's a really good line because I feel like 6 or 7's the number. So I'll take the over. But It's a really good line. That's a tough call.
It's a good line. He's been
David, what about you?
I'm going over as well.
All right. Ryan.
Just to be different, I'll go under.
All right. And Dibes.
I'm going to go over. I don't think he's going to get a lot of yards. I think it's going to be like a Devonta Smith special, like 7 catches for 70 yards type of thing.
All right. And the last one, over under Bucky Irving total yards at 69.5. He was over that last week with 70. I'm going to take the over. He has outplayed Rachaad White. I think he's going to start taking a lot of those snaps. So give me over Bucky Irving. Dibes, what do you got?
I'm going to go over. I see him getting like a big reception, and I have the slight over.
All right, Ryan.
I'm going to go over. I think I don't necessarily like the Bucs run game here, but I think Bucky is getting more and more carries each week, and I don't know. I like him.
All right, David, bring it home here. Over, under.
I'm going over because it's total yards. If it was rushing, I was a strong under, but
yeah.
All right. Well, there you guys have it. Our thoughts about the Eagles' victory over the Saints, our top matchups to watch, and our player props, our predictions for this weekend when the Eagles travel to Tampa to take on the Buccaneers in a revenge game, trying to get revenge for the playoffs. 2 of the last 3 years, actually. So a lot of revenge on the table here. Thank you guys for joining this episode. Be sure you're following all of these guys. I'll throw it around the horn for final thoughts and plugs. David, tell the people where they can find you, what you got going on.
you can find everything I write, post, talk, tweet at David at PHL Eagle News. I have a piece out from observations from the previous game and a piece on Nick Sirianni. Shane and I are pretty closely aligned on that, but it's slightly different. He wrote an article also on the inconsistencies and stuff of Sirianni, but you can find it all at PHL Eagle News on X.
All right. Ryan, you're up. What you got going on?
Yeah. Well, now that Monday is the busiest podcasting day of my life, you can find me all over the place, whether it's right here, Philly Sports PSA or Philly Sports Alliance on Facebook and YouTube, or on the Edge of Philly Sports Network, or, of course, on the Eagles Pinpull Network. Shows throughout the week, Monday, Tuesday, Sunday, you name it, I do it. So follow me for all that.
All right. Dibes, plug your stuff, man. Tell the people what you got going on.
Awesome week in college football. I put out, I think, 6 winners of shorts and highlights. If you're a big college football NFL draft sicko like myself, all highlight reels of Jaylen Carter, you name it. Dallas Goedert, Zack Baun, Nakobe Dean are on the channel. All their plays, good and bad, so you can kind of assess for yourself how you thought they played. They were very good. Final thought. We didn't really talk about it tonight, but I do want to shout out Jalen Herz against the Blitz has been really good this season. They're going up against the Tampa Bay Bucs team, as we know, is historically a heavy blitz team. Their blitz percentage from last year to this year has gone down 20%, 40% to 20%. Small sample size, but just keep an eye out for that. So thank you, everyone, for watching. Go Birds.
Yeah, Hertz ranks 4th in EPA per dropback against the blitz among all quarterbacks. So it'll be a good test again this weekend. So thank you guys for following along. Again, make sure you are subscribed to the Eagles Pinpull Network wherever you get your podcasts. We certainly appreciate any ratings, reviews. Share it with a friend. Lots of great shows on there. Be sure you're following all these guys. Dibes is at Mr. Crockpot. Ryan is at Philly Sports PSA. David is at PHL Eagle News. I am at Shane Half NFL, and we will catch you guys next week for another Victory Monday edition of the podcast. Go Birds.
you.